this on. Okay, so we're gonna do lab 8 today. You are going to need a drive for your Windows virtual machine. You can do this on your regular PC. If you want to install Zenmap and do a little bit of practice, just make sure that you read the requirement for the installation. So if you have your external hard drive, go to this PC, plug your drive in, find the 2024 folder. I think I copy mine and clone it. So I clone one, but I have them on the desktop here. Okay. I'm gonna run the clone though. So before you start your VM, after you copy it, the folder onto your desktop, you just click add on your VirtualBox. Go to your desktop, find the folder that contains your virtual machine, find the VBox file and click open. Before you start it, go to settings. I think I set it for higher RAM, but if it's not, you can increase the RAM and the processor. It's just gonna give it a little bit more speed. So I'll go ahead and start my clone. And you can clone a machine by right click and choose clone and do a full clone. Just save it to where you would have it later. So if you can duplicate the copy that way. Yes, you can copy the folder, but it doesn't always guarantee the disk and the files will stay intact. Okay, so the first part is to get us started with the virtual machine, boot it, and then log in. And while it's doing that, it's going to take about a couple minutes. Let's talk about Zenmap. So Zenmap is Nmap for Windows. It has graphical user interface. So I think you've seen Nmap before. We did a lab where we looked at Nmap. It is a very popular tool. So after this class, you should be able to put that on your resume, right? So I would have a section for security or cybersecurity on the resume. And I would list all the tools that I am knowledgeable in, right? And if you can get the version number, that's also important because, you know, but if you put Nmap or Zenmap, people in the industry would know what that is, right? So if you are applying for a specialist position, that's good because they know that you know how to use vulnerability scanner like Nmap, okay? If you put Kali Linux, put the version 2024, right? So those things you need to update as you go through the courses because we use it every day. And then if you have additional practice, it's helpful. So this is an open source tool. They have good documentation. They actually have a book you can use. But Nmap is helpful if you know how to use the script, right? The script engine, NSE. So go through the book. It's available on their website. But it uses raw packets so that way it can submit it to your target or your host. This is a way that it can determine what kind of service, like web service or FTP or any type of service that the host is running. This can also help it determine if there's a packet filtering firewall. So a firewall that's looking at the packet, it interrogates the packet and it looks at the label of the packet, which is the header. It has where the source, the destination, and some of the payload information. Nmap is also very good for security audit. So whenever you hear the term audit, right, like tax audit or security audit just means that you go back and you look at your security configurations and implementation, and you can, if you can identify any kind of gaps. So you would go in and look at your system configuration and all the security information. So it is useful for that. Okay. So when you get your result, these are the things that you need to know. Open, filter, close, unfiltered. Open means that your system has available listening connection through a port, right? Remember we talk about port is like door and windows. So it is a way that we can get inside the house. So if it's an open door or window, we can get into that house. So open port. If it's a closed port, that means that no application is using that port or it's not listening on that port. It's not available. Closed door, closed window, cannot get in. And then you would have filtered. That means that there is a firewall and there's a filter mechanism in place. So it cannot tell you whether it's open or closed. It's like having an iron gate around the house. So we don't know how many doors or windows that house has. So you cannot see. So sometime when you run into filter, we just know that there is a firewall in place. When it says unfiltered, right, it's able to probe, but it still cannot determine whether it's open or closed. So the tool is only going to give you somewhat of an okay set of information, but you need to find other ways to find information. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and log in. Here's our desktop. And then once I'm on my desktop, I'm going to go ahead and click Edge. It might require me to install Edge and additional components. So I'm going to pull this up so I can see accept and download. I'm going to go ahead and click save and then run. So my Internet Explorer is no longer used, right? We're transitioning completely to Edge. So once that is available, I can use the browser Edge. And so when this pop up, I'm going to go ahead and allow. So when you click Edge, just go through the process of installing it. And it's going to take a minute or so. Okay, so once you have your browser, you're going to go to nmap.org. So the way that I wrote this, yes, I could have installed this into the virtual machine and copy it to you, but if you need to do this from scratch, you need to know what to do, right? Because, you know, I might not be able to give you virtual machine down the line, so you just need to know what to do from start. Yes. No, that's Thursday class. You have the wrong instruction. So download 27. That's why it's confusing, right? Because it's not the right one. Okay, so I'm going to start without syncing the data, confirm and continue without data, and then confirm and start browsing. Okay, so now I have Edge. And then you can just, if you want, you just go Nmap download. If you don't want to put in the whole URL, and then you can go here, just search for Nmap download. So when you land on the page, make sure we click the right version for our OS. So if you're running Mac, Linux, or other, we're gonna go Windows. That's what we're using. And the executable is here, right? Near the middle of the page. So make sure we select Windows and then download the exe, that's for Windows. It's going to take a few seconds to do that. And then we're going to open the file. Windows Firewall asks if we want to allow. Yes. And then here you need to accept the agreement. And I normally keep everything by default unless you have some other needs you can select. I'm going to go ahead and click next and then click install. So the download and installation process is pretty straightforward. It's if you don't have the npcap file or application, it's going to tell you to install it. But if you had installed Wireshark on your stuff, on your OS, you would be able to have that. So here We're gonna click agree. And it says npcap WinCap API compatible mode. We're gonna need to install it. It's 1.79, right? I might have put down 1.5, but that's the base. So in Linux, you can use the older version, but for this, we need 1.79. And you can always refer to Nmap documentation or instruction. Okay, so once we have it installed, we go through and install the application using the exe, accept the license agreement, use the default selection, go next, and click install. Here I am, I'm at step 13 with the npcap 1.79. And then when this is done, we're gonna go next and finish. And then click next. And it's gonna put the desktop icon in a start menu folder. We're gonna click finish. And then after that, we can close the download page, close our browser. Yeah, so you go up, go to, did you click Windows?
Yes.
No, oh, right here. Yeah, so let's go down a little. It's gonna give you the exe setup right there. Yeah, 7.95 exe.
Run it?
Yes, run the exe. So it's gonna download and then click open when it's done and yes.
No. Yeah. No.
Yeah, sometimes you have to get it out of the library for VirtualBox. That's all.
Right here,
Yeah, just proceed with everything default. Next, wait
it's
for
the
it.
way it is right there?
Yes, all the way to the end. Okay, so once we have everything installed, right, you see Nmap right there. We are going to click the desktop icon. Open up the application. You're gonna see it like this. And in order to find a target, we're gonna basically use ourselves as a target. So you're gonna open up your CMD. Oops. And then you can do ipconfig. All is okay or ipconfig. So my IP address, same as if you use Kali Linux, because that's the default number for your so it's 10.0.2.15, right? So I want to record that here. So that way, oops, that way I know. And then the MAC address. Oh, I didn't do all, so let me up arrow key. If you do the get MAC or slash all. So for the MAC address, it's gonna be the physical address. So when you look at this, the physical address is this. Bless you. Okay. It's important that we have the physical address of the system and the IP address. So you can record that on to your lab. Okay, so once we have our IP address and our MAC address, you are going to open up your Zenmap GUI on the desktop icon. So I can close this. And when you open this up, this will pop up. So it's still going to issue the Nmap command in the back, but you just having the buttons and things to click. So we are going to put in your IP address, 10.0.2.15 into the target right here. Now, if we're using Kali Linux, we would have to do nmap-t4-a is the aggressive scan with verbose, and then this is our IP address, right? So here you can select the type of scan that you want. So if you want brief, simple information, you would do a quick scan. If you want more detailed information, you would do an intensive scan. Or if you want a less of detailed information, you can also do a regular scan. So all that is, the difference between these is going to be the number of raw packets and the amount of testing that it's going to perform, right, as you select these options. But these are just additional options that you would use in Nmap command if you were running Linux or like Kali Linux. Okay. So it's telling you here to do a quick scan. So we're going to do a quick scan here and then just click scan. Now, a quick scan is going to give you brief information. So it tells me that these are the ports that are open in green. Okay. There are 97 closed ports. And it just took seconds. Because we are not too far from ourselves. But if you're scanning a target that is a little bit farther out in other networks, it might take a little bit of time to come back. So you would use their public IP address. Yep.
Download everything.
Yeah, so now we need to read the instruction. Come here, scroll down. We already did that. So now you already installed everything, right? You click finish. You did the installation, you finished. So now you start at step 21. Okay, open up command prompt. It tells you to do that, step 21. Yes. Inside the virtual machine. And then you continue with each step. Okay, so in the command field, what is the command to use the quick scan? The reason why I have you, so you can put down the command, right? Nmap t4/f-f and then your target IP. That's for a quick scan. So put that down for this question. Take a screenshot. How many ports are open? So we would see 3 ports. You need a new drive?
Yeah, in one, that's it. Have it again,
Okay, yeah, just shut it down. You want to shut it down. Yeah, when you guys shut down your VM, shut it down like how you shut down your computer. But we need some options.
already, input it this year. Giving me.
Hold on one second. Put this one aside and I'll tell you that later. No, so where's 21? It tells you 20 in no, so except 20, open command prompt by searching for CMD. There you go.
I put in a good word for you, I said you're very good.
Mostly, yes. All right, so we got our open ports, we got our closed ports. Put down the answer. Now you can also click the tabs up here. It's gonna list the ports on its own tab. Okay, so this is the Windows 10 virtual machine, so it's gonna be simple, but when you scanning like servers, they might have other services running. So this is gonna be able to allow the system to use names, right? We saw some of that last time. So how we would recognize system by its computer name. There are other type of services that you would see here. Well, as an attacker or a vulnerability tester or pen tester, you need to take a look at these services and see what kind of vulnerability that you have. So you have to do some research, right? NetBIOS or this, okay? Or this. Now, if they have remote desktop, you also need to research that. So we would need to see the port number and the service. That's why you have to record it. So in the process of making your assessment for your vulnerability and your risk assessment, you write down the type of service and the correlated open ports. So we look at the ports on the port tab. And then on topology, this is just going to tell you how far it is to your target. Now, I am only one hop away. That just means that I am, it is itself. But you might see something that's a little bit further. So if our target is maybe a few networks away, then you might be 3, 4, or even 50 hops away, right? That might take a little bit longer to connect and scan. So topology top, it's only going to show one system, one host, right? Here's my local host. It see itself as another entity. So that. Okay. And then for the host details, this is going to give you more information. So let's expand it, right? They're doing a way better job with the graphic on this now, because I remember this used to be very plain. So you can expand if there's comments, but it tells you some information. So it's not able to obtain the map. See? All right. So it's still going to relay the information, how many ports are scanned, how many ports are closed. So it tells you to click on the profile drop-down menu, select intent scan. So coming back to the application here, let's change this now to intent scan and then click scan. So on the intent scan, it's going to take a little bit longer. As you can see, it's running the NSE, which is your script engine for your Nmap script engine. So it's doing the SYN stealth scan. Remember how my answer had that earlier? Well, if you run Nmap, you already have that. It's also going to find a port, so open port. So you also have that in Nmap here. It's scanning for 1,000 ports, but if you're using command line, you can also change this to more than 1,000 ports. And as you have more ports to scan, it's going to take longer. But by default, intent scan is about 1,000 ports. So we're getting additional information. It's running SMB2 right here. So it tells you it's able to get some timestamp information. And then you can also look into SMB2 security mode. Now, sometimes you're not going to get OS information. Sometimes it's able to give you that. Okay. So similar to what you see in command line, it's basically going to give it out on the graphical user interface. So what command is used in the intent scan? The command is here, right? So I'm doing a T4 instead of an F. When you're using a capital A, that's an aggressive scan. That just is an intent scan in Windows Zenmap. And it also have TCP sequence difficulty 257. So it gives you the ranking. Oh, it did guess Windows 10 and the version. Okay. Take a screenshot. So how can I find the raw packets? If you go down on the bottom, it tells you how many raw packets were sent. It's roughly about 1,000 because, you know, it needs to assess at least 1,000 ports. So there's 16 for additional things. And it's able to receive 2,043. And this is the size of data. The operating system, we saw that it is correct. It shows Windows 10. How many scripts were loaded? So for this, you would see that there's script post scanning. There's also script at the beginning. Usually it should be able to tell you. It loaded 157 scripts. So this is built with the application. So whenever that you're doing a certain type of scan, it's going to load the appropriate scripts that's correlated to that type of scan. So Zenmap is definitely more user-friendly compared, but it's still going to give you the same thing as you are doing it in command line, like in Linux command line or terminal. Any questions? Okay, so once I have the intent scan, I can then click the ports and the host. Since it's the same target, you pretty much going to get the same thing. Sometimes when you perform intent scan, you might have a little bit more details, but usually you're going to get the same set of ports and then the topology and the host details. It's still not able to find my MAC. It did tell me the OS. And if you scroll down, you can find port use information, OS classes, TCP sequencing, which is what you've seen in the first summary page, incremental for IP, and so on, right? And then it shows that I have two scan. The first one is the F, which is the quick scan, and the second one is the intense scan. So it keeps the track or the history of my scan. So the number should be the same as what you see because it's the same target. And I should have the same number of ports that were scanned. So let's take a look at that. Is that host detail? Yep. So here the port used. Minimize all of this. So the state of my system is up, right? That means that it's running, it's working, it's responding. So when it's up, that means that it's listening. There are 3 open ports, 997 closed ports, because out of this we have 1,000, right? But if the administrator for the system is using port 2,000 or 4,000, it won't be able to catch that, right? Because it's only scanning the first beginning 1,000 ports. No, so you already installed Zenmap, close that. Where is it on your desktop? Close all. Okay, where is it on your desktop? Zenmap, do you see it on your desktop? Look here. Yeah, double click it.
That's what they're talking about.
Yes, that's the application that you installed. So now you are going to, you here, 23, and then here in the target, you're gonna put in this IP address. Okay, cool. Yeah. Other questions? All right. So once we have the information, so now, right, eventually we want to make sure that we scan a higher range, right? Ideally, realistically, that's what I recommend, because most network nowadays, everybody use like 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 8,000. So your range of ports needs to be higher. And then when you expand the port or click the arrow, the plus sign, you should see the closed ports. Here, right? So it tells you 33,634 ports are actually closed. And then there are 3 that are open. There's also UDP that's also closed. All right, so Nmap, they put up this website, so you can do this legally, right? I'm not breaking any rules doing this. So you are going to put in a quick trace route. So trace route is a way that we can follow our network traffic from our system to the target, which is scanme.nmap.org. And when we tell it to use the IP address, it's going to plug in the registered public domain IP address for this domain, this target. Okay. So we're going to come back here. We're going to put in use IP. And we're going to do a quick trace route. So as it goes through each hop, it needs to report back. So this is a little bit slower than your regular traffic. Let me see. Hold on. Let me take this out. Oh, it didn't like. Sorry. I don't know why I put that there. Okay, so just use this. Maybe I put a note for. Yeah. Yes.
Looking up the IP address that's open for public scanning, if you want that.
You can just do scanme.nmap.org without the www. I'm fixing that now. You can just do it like this. It will convert the DNS will convert that to the public IP. But yeah, thank you. You can find that public IP. I forgot that Nmap doesn't the application doesn't have parameter for the HTTP www. So you just put in the domain name like this. Okay. So when you guys get to 36, plug in scanme.nmap.org. Don't put the www or anything follow. Just put that. And it should spit it out. Or it should give you the output. You can also use the IP address too. Yeah. Sometimes they also change the parameter on what is allowed here. So when you're doing a trace route in the command line, it would be nmap dash sn, I'm sorry, sn trace route scanme.nmap.org. SN. Okay. So it tells me that it goes to this hop. And then, so that means that it leaves, right? It leaves my current network, which is this gateway, and then it gets to the server. Now, if you take that and you put it into Windows, I'm going to show you a quick example. If you do CMD, right, we can do trace RT, scanme.nmap.org. So when you're doing a trace route, it's pinging that target and it's reporting back. So it looks slightly different, as you can see, right? On Nmap, it's reporting to us that it's only from here and to the destination, whereas in Windows, you see how it's reporting. So I'm leaving my gateway for my virtual machine. I get into our CCD network. I get into our CCD service provider, which is here, right? And then I get into further into their service provider. And you see when it's request timeout, that simply tells you that it's not able to get response back from a certain autonomous system or router, or sometimes they block it. So if they disable ICMP, it won't report back to us. And then now it reaches the destination. So in between, we do have some system that doesn't tell us, right, who they are. But we did get some information from our network. See? So you get two different stories, right? One from this side where it's very brief. And then one, if you want to be more specific, you use command line and you would see a little bit more. Why is that important? Because we want to see how far we are from our distant target. Okay, then you would see the state of the host. It says one host up. So if it can ping it and report back with trace route, right, it's responsive, it's up. Okay, and then for the host details, we can go to the host detail. It's going to contain almost the same information that what we've seen before. 3 ports, right? 1,000 ports that are scanned, the OS. Okay, any question? So you can practice other things on here, right? There's endless things that you can do on here. You can practice with scanme.nmap.org. They put it there for you to practice their tool. You can also scan yourself. You can get another virtual machine and put it on internal network and scan it. There's so many things that you can do. Okay, so I'm done with Nmap. We're going to close the application. We don't have to save. If you want to save your scan, you can. So by practice, we should save it so we don't have to rescan. Because sometimes scan can take a long time. So we're going to do GP edit. So to view policy, you would open up group policy console that you can only view, right? But in order to edit, you have to edit it in group policy editor. It will look like this. Everything that you need, we've seen this before. I think we did this earlier in the semester. Anytime that you change configuration for your accounts, all of those things, it belongs to computer configuration. not the user. So focus on this area right here at the top. And in password policy or account policy, you would go to Windows settings and you would go into security settings, right? There's your account policy. Okay. So for your password policy, you can change that. I think we've seen that before, right? So here you would click on computer configuration, Windows settings, click on security settings, account policy, and password policy. So earlier in the questions, we said that, well, perhaps after the incident, something like ransomware, we would then make people change their password, but you want to make sure that they're complex password, because last week we already saw how brute force can do, right? And then how we can use other type of tools to attack password. So in password policy, we're going to do enforce password policy. You can double click or you can right click and choose property. If you double click, it's going to open it up the same way. So if you want to make sure that they don't recycle their password, right? Like, or use the same password over and over again, you can change this to 5. That means that they have to use 5 different passwords before they can reuse it again. It's going to remember their 5 passwords as they change it, right? Even when I reset the password, it's going to it's maintaining the history of 5. So click apply, click OK. And then we're going to do password age. So the maximum number of days that they can have using that same password, we're going to set it to 90 days, which is approximately 3 months. Some company, they want to make it, longer or less. But you got to remember, the more you make people change the password, the more they're going to forget their password. And it's, from the IT services side, there are going to be more tickets to reset their password, but you can have self-reset password, right? With multi-factor authentication, that can be implemented. You've seen a lot of that now. But we can make it longer or shorter. It depends on the company internal policy, right? And then I normally leave this 0 days so they can set it, like in some case, people forget their password. As soon as they reset it, they can reset it again, right? But if you make it 1 day, they cannot reset it until the next day. So if you leave it 0 day, it's just the minimum of time that they can reset the password. Okay, so we changed the maximum password age to 90 days. Now we're going to make sure that it is complex. So the length, you can up it to 8 characters. Now I think my practice is between 12 and 14 now, right? And people can use password generator and things like that, but at least at the minimum is 8. And then we want to make it complex. So you got to click apply and OK. So on the next one, double click password meet the complexity, upper lowercase, symbols, symbols and numbers. So we can just simply click enable, apply, and click OK. Take a screenshot. And then we're going to do account lockout to prevent brute force. So on the left side, click account lockout. So you want to lock it out. Remember, we're buying time. So it's not applicable, you see. And you can click explain, it tells you that, but it's not letting me change the minutes here. So we're gonna do 5 invalid attempts to prevent brute force. So if they failed 5 times to log in, we're gonna lock them out. And then with that, it's gonna, so in order to set the first one, you gotta set the second one first. This, I think Microsoft should have done better with putting this first and then the other one, right? It makes more sense to do the threshold and then the duration. But they make you set the duration, the threshold first. So if you make it 5 times, that means that if they put in 5 wrong password, it's gonna lock them out. And right now, by default, it's gonna go 30 minutes. And I can change that. So we can change that to, what did it say? So let me change this back. And by default, it's on 30 minutes. But if you double click it again, we can change this up to, let's say 60 minutes, an hour. You know how you reset your password, you type in the wrong password several times, right? It's gonna tell you to come back later. Sometime 24 hours. So it gives us time to go and audit that account because it keeps it in the log. So this is how you can control brute forcing, right? So set the threshold first and then set the account lockout duration. 90 minutes or 60 minutes. And then for the reset, they can have it reset. I normally keep the lockout duration and the account lockout counter about the same. But it's only because we want to see what had happened to that account. Or you can have it, they can wait a little bit more before they reset, but keeping it the same is pretty common for the practice. Okay, so you can do 180 minutes like what the lab asks you for, and then change it to 60 minutes, they can reset. Okay, so this is a little bit outside of, so once you set this, right? If you want, so on the server, we normally set this on Active Directory. It looks similar like this, but it doesn't take effective for, you know, depending on the synchronization for, by default, Microsoft server sync every 60 minutes, right? Does that make sense? So database sync at a certain time, just like, for example, you register for a class, you don't see Canvas on there right away, right? Database have to sync with web server and so on. So you gotta wait a few hours for it to sync, right? The data get brought over, it builds out your class. Same thing. So in order to enforce it right away, we need to make sure that we do enforcement for policy. So you can either run the command or you can go find the policy and you can right click and enforce it. So it would be carried out right away. And with that, it would carry all over to your subdomains or other systems that are inheriting the data information or the data, the settings that you had set on the original server, the parent domain.
Stacy, number 32, it says how many scripts are loaded for scanning.
Well, look at the top, scroll up. It should say loaded NSE script. Yeah, right here, scroll up. Yeah, so come back here. Yeah. Right here. All right, are we okay? You guys got a lot of time. Should have made this lap a little longer. Okay, so when we're done, you can close out, but you should examine other things in here, like audit policy. You can go in and look at so audit, when we look at audit, we just simply look at what had been changed to the system, what had been changed to the account, right? Like here, login events. And then if you want privilege, you would go into user rights assignments. Like we would deny them from shutting down their computer, install different things. And so I would encourage you to do that. Now, if you are well versed with this, there are a lot of jobs for AD administrator, we'll touch on the server side a little bit later. There's also classes that address this, but you can see this is normally a lot of like just configuring things like this is gonna help security very much. All right, let me make sure we answer these questions. What did you learn about Nmap or Zenmap? What did you learn about system policy or security policy? How is it useful to control access?